So do you like issuing challenges before the game starts? Welcome back to the channel. It's Richie here from Dowie After Dark, and I am joined by a man that has taken off his Chaos Dwarf hat and has donned a new army. Now, he has recently run at the square-based GT, the Wolves of the Sea, and did really, really well with them to the point where he actually got a little golden cup.
I got a little golden cup. I mean, you did win, you rat bastard. But I got overall, you know, it's the first time I got overall as well. And yeah, Wolves of the Sea, man. Crazy army. Great fun.
Yeah, no, your army looks pretty crazy as well. For any of you that haven't seen the pictures, I'll post some a bit later on in the video. But all of his army's pretty grotesque, to the point where everyone kind of come over and was looking at it and didn't know what anything was. And yeah, no, it was cool. It was nice to see Wolves of the Sea doing quite well as well, because I know a lot of people, when the books dropped, were kind of like, oh, this one I quite like the just taking the normal Grand Army and taking the new stuff out of it. Obviously, no one's playing the cavalry and chariots apart from Ed, really. But I don't think anyone else is too excited about that one. But Wolves of the Sea, I think, are very, very interesting. And there's a couple of bits, obviously, that we'll get you to talk about in a minute that are interesting. But I think the standouts for me are the skin wolves, and then there's some really fun little mechanics. And I think there's a lot that's added into this that kind of spice up chaos in general, actually, and do kind of shore up some gaps that are in the chaos roster.
Oh, God, yeah, entirely. I mean, like you say, when this book first dropped, we were, from a chaos mindset, we're talking dragons, we're talking dragon ogres, and, you know, just being really aggressive and push and small elite army. Heralds of Darkness, which is a cavalry one, I don't know. I still don't know how you make that work on a competitive level. But Wolves of the Sea takes everything we knew about chaos competitively and flipped it on its head. It's not about having this crack team of elite fighters. It's about having as many shirtless dudes on PCP as you can running at the enemy. You know, it's great.
Yeah, it's just all kind of based around a lot of MSU units of Berserkers kind of popping up behind you. Like, I don't know if any of you have played too many games of Wolves of the Sea, but they are everywhere. Like, how many drops is your army? Because yours, I know you condense down into like a big Death Star, but I suppose a lot of people, if they were going to run like purely MSU, like you could just cover the board. Like you could struggle to actually deploy your army, really.
Well, I have 1,000-point brick in my army, and I still have 14 drops.
That's insane. Like, for comparison, guys, the dwarf army that I took to the same tournament, I only had 2 units. And then I had to use a cart to make the army legal. So the fact that he's running that many drops is nuts.
It is crazy. Yeah, it's one of the only armies I've played so far, other than Beastmen, where the core doesn't feel like a tax. I had to stop myself spending over 500 points in it because I was like, no, there's more efficient stuff elsewhere, but this stuff's really fun. So anything that does that and stops core feeling like a bad thing, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, I think any army that's got access to really good stuff in core is onto a winner. And that's normally what you see kind of winning games, really. It's either if they've got like an absolutely broken character or they've got access to something in core that can help them win. That's what you kind of see in the armies that are struggling at the moment. They just don't have access to something that's really phenomenal in core.
Yeah. And I mean, I made this army initially, it was a response. It was a response to the meta, is why I made this army. A lot of people are sick to death of 2 things, I felt, well, 3 things. Chaos, dragon, well, big dragons in general, be it the Chaos one or the Elf one, but they're the 2 big offenders. So I said to myself, right, I'm not taking a dragon. I'm just not doing it. Or any big flying monster. There is nothing with fly in this army. Bretonia was just so hard to get over with Falconhorn. So again, nothing with fly. That was my... And Wood Elves. Just dealing with them. So I'm using their tactics against them. This is a response to the meta. This is me coming back from LGT going, oh, that really hurt. Oh, and then coming up with this, you know?
Yeah, definitely kind of like the 3. Well, I know there's obviously more bogeymen, but yeah, no, nobody likes a knife here on this show anyway.
I mean, the army, to appease your Dowie fans, it's the Slayer cult of the Chaos list, you know? it takes out all of the really, really cool stuff that you get, like your big dragons and all of this stuff, and it leaves you with a bunch of melee foot troops. And well, I mean, we get Cav too, but you know, it's the stripped back version, which is fun.
Oh yeah. So how did you find joining our world and just running a load of foot slogging infantry? Did you have fun?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, it does break a few tenets of rank and flank because it's all skirmishers. Bar the one unit of skin wolves and the 2 giant spawns, it's all skirmishers. But I did really enjoy not having a shooting phase, not having to worry about artillery exploding. That was great. Loved that. Kind of enjoyed not running flyers as well. Loved just having to, like, being able to remove that section of the rules and throw it out with my brain and go, right, I can just focus in and concentrate on what's on the floor and really look at the terrain. Yeah, not having a dragon was nice. Really nice.
Now, if you can just tell that to everybody that loves running dragons, then Old World might actually appease a lot more people, I think.
Like, I mean this on a level. Like, Richie and myself are fairly competitive players. We're trying to push very hard to get high up in a ranking or something like that. Stop playing dragons, guys. Be better. You know you can. Like, we all know you can win using dragons. Or those of you who are going, I feel attacked, good, I'm talking to you. Just run something else, and you can still win. You can still have a great time, and the game looks cooler for it.
Yeah, no, I think as soon as you kind of strip out those, like, don't get me wrong, like I love the big monsters, I do. It's just nice to see an actual rank and flank looking game on the board. And I think Wolves of the Sea definitely does it like that. I know, obviously, people are going to be like, "There's skirmish and all this kind of stuff," but it still looks like traditional old Warhammer, which is quite appeasing to the soul, I think.
And I can't be entirely holier than thou. I do run 2 Behemoths in the list with the wholly undercosted giant Chaos Spawn. What an MVP that thing is!
Yeah, 145. It's 145 points, isn't it?
Mine's 170 with the Mark of Nurgle, which is regen on a Behemoth and poison attacks. It's stupid cheap. Also, mine just took all the speed this weekend as well because they were rolling. I think average was like a 12 for movement most games, which is crazy. Don't get me wrong, I got some stinkers. I rolled some 3s and some 5s, but it would be a case of, I need a 17 to charge that unit. Roll the dice, 17. Cool. You know.
I oh man, I absolutely love it. You know, like when it's you get that look of the dice going, and it's like every single roll, it's like, all right, I need this to get it. It's like I had a few of them at the event on the weekend,
Hey,
actually.
roll 6s, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can run a saw actually. So I was playing against Kieran running Mortuary Cult, and I needed a double 6 to be able to stop his spell. And this was like a really important spell. He was going to mirage my unit, and I needed my unit to charge. So I obviously thought I wasn't going to get it, but I give it a go. And I just kind of held it up and did like the Salt Bay and just rolled a double 6 and was just like prancing around. And then Tom come over to have a look what was going on. And I was like, mate, I literally just did this. And I picked up 2 dice and rolled them the same way and rolled a double 6 again. So I'm never going to do that ever again because that's apparently how you roll double 6s.
Yeah, that's metagaming on a whole different level right there.
So, what are your MVPs in the list then? Obviously, you've talked about the gigantic spawn, which everybody knows why that's good. That's just a crazy unit, crazy undercosted, and I think potentially in the future that might get some points increases. I think it does need it a little bit, I think. But what else stands out for you? So for people who haven't seen your list, they won't know. Obviously, I know what you really like because there's loads of them. But yeah,
Yeah.
do you want to explain what you like about it?
So the list revolves around the skin wolves. I've got 11 in my list in 2 units. So there's a unit of 7 and a unit of 4, and that was actually the less amount of skin wolves. There was originally another unit of 4 in there as well, but it got trimmed back. These are incredible. Like, even by themselves, that unit of 4 for I think it's 220 points for a unit of 4, 200 points. It's not a lot. They are really, really good as anti-chaff because they've got 3 attacks, strength 4, toughness 4, and weapon skill 5. So just off the bat, they're really good anti-chaff. Oh no, big units of knights have charged me. Cool, now I'm toughness 5 with a 5 up save. I've managed to charge the big units of knights. Cool, now I've got AP 1 and armor bane 2. oh, there's a really big blocker chap. I'm going to get extra attacks. And then I'm going to roll Frenzy on top of that. So now I've got 5 attacks base on a model. The flexibility of them is insane. It's Pegasus Knights envy them because they're 20 points cheaper than they are and do most of the tricks that they do. Minotaurs are jealous of them because they're 15 points cheaper than they are and are just better in every way. They've got basically all the Minotaur special rules, but then Skirmish on Swift Stride on top of that. And they just fundamentally work in the list. Now I supercharged it. I put a Sorcerer in there and I put an Exalted Champion in there. As the rules currently state, the Warped Form mutation applies to the whole unit, as does Primal Fury. And the characters are in the unit, the buff applies to them too. So it allows you to take a relatively cheap hero and push them to the levels of the most expensive character.
So do you want to explain for the viewers who obviously are watching this and they go in, how do you do all that? So there's a couple of rules that they've got which are kind of baked into their profile, which just make them go nuts. And also to be able to join the unit, because they do have the clumsy special rule. To be able to put a hero into that unit, they also need to have the clumsy special rule. Now, to gain this, you're going to put your hero on a Daemonic Mount. That means that you can put is it an Aspiring Champion or Exalted Champion?
Byron's the only one you can't, so no BSBs in this unit. But Sorcerers, either one of the Sorcerers and the Exalted Champion, or a Chaos Lord.
Right, so you're going to want to put either 1 or 2 of those heroes in that unit. You're probably going to want to put a Sorcerer to get some Demonology buffs onto them, get them even higher toughness off, get the Nurgle signature spell in there as well to be able to get higher toughness again, just going pretty crazy. Extra attacks is always nice as well. And also just a kind of a smash hero in there, because obviously remember that you're buffing the entire unit, so you can make the smash heroes really, really good in there as well. Tom, can you run us through the little special rules that make the skin rules absolutely nuts?
Yeah, so the first one I've already mentioned is Warp Form. So this is the one that you get to at 1.1 of every combat phase. So that's right at the beginning of when you are choosing the combatants for each combat. You choose a mutation and you roll Primal Fury. Primal Fury is a leadership test using the standard leadership of the unit. You can use your generals if you're in range or a character if it's in the unit. If you pass, you reroll once. If you pass on doubles, you gain Frenzy. Important to note, you can regain Frenzy if you previously lost it this way as well.
Ooh, handy.
One of the only ways you can do it in the game. The warped forms, you've got 3 forms you can choose. And it's not a roll table, you can just choose them. One of them's +1 toughness and +2 to your armor save, so armored hide 2. Which is really, really, really handy because a lot of your characters don't have armored hide. So although it's not a stackable rule, for those, it just applies. It's great. It's lovely. The other one is extra attacks 1. This isn't one I choose very often, but it's great for chaff clearing, rolling into night goblins or skeletons, for example. And then the other one, which I tend to use quite a lot, is AP1 and Armor Bane 2. Getting AP3 off from the sheer quantity of attacks that are coming through is silly. But the real key hidden thing here is using that AP1 and Armor Bane 2 to drive up the value of otherwise overlooked magic weapons. Giant Blade is the one I chose for this. The reason it gets overlooked a lot of the time is because, it's multiple wounds 2 and Armor Bane 2, but there's no AP. Armor Bane is a stackable rule. So if I give a character this, they've got AP1 base, but then if I roll a 6, that's AP5.
Ooh, nice.
You're not doing any save, and then it's straight to multiple wounds, which I actually prefer over the Ogre Blade, which is a D3, because we've all rolled the 1. We've all rolled it. I can't roll the 3, but I can roll. I like the average. I'm not having to pay for any of this. It's lovely. It's a really nice, flexible unit. That the downside is you have no armor save base, but you do get a 5-up regen just off the bat. Just for being you get a 5-up regen. And because regen isn't tied to flammable anymore, and these guys don't have it, they're not losing it. It's a really handy thing. I ran on my sorcerer. You mentioned demonology. I toyed with it. But one of the biggest things which both of us have encountered on a competitive level is survivability is key. It far outweighs damage dealing in terms of game-winning moves and in the list building stage. So I wanted battle magic because I wanted a ward save on the unit. Being able to, I took spell familiar over lore familiar because the puppet exists and you kind of have to take it. It's annoying. It does suck when there's magic items like that in your list. We're like, well, it exists, so I have to take it. It's just where, you know.
Yeah, it's the same with Grugny with the dwarves. Like,
Yeah,
I just don't think you can physically make a list without one. Like, you need a BSB in just any kind of setting, whether that be, well, you don't need one in X-Force, I suppose, but you're not going into combat really. But anytime you're going to be going into combat, you need that. And I suppose there are certain things that you're just like, right, list building, you start with that bit, don't you? You're like,
yeah.
right, I need that. With chaos lists, you're like, right, I need the puppet. It's
Sorcerer
when you
Puppet. Yeah.
yeah, when you see a chaos list without the puppet, you're like, what?
What secret tech are you running, or are you just a fool? You know. But yeah, so I ran the Exalted Champ with the Ogre Blade, with the Giant Blade, and all of that. But I really like the sounds of the Demonology second wizard in the unit. Big downside of Wolves of the Sea is you can only take one upper end caster. You can only take one Sorcerer Lord or Demon Prince in the list. So it means maybe having to survive on a level 2. I haven't played it yet, but it sounds like you could then turn that unit into gods.
Yeah, that'd be pretty horrendous, I think.
The upper level of survivability on this unit as it stands and as I got off at the weekend. So this isn't me talking about some white room in a vacuum situation. This is something I achieved like 4 times at the weekend. Is getting this brick, and it's a sorcerer, an exalted champion, and 7 skin wolves. Up to toughness 7 across the unit, with a 3 up save, 5 up ward, and a 5 up regen, and pumping out AP1 armor bane 2 attacks. Nothing realistically, nothing in the game looks at that and goes, "Yeah, I'll have a crack." Nothing does. I don't think there's, and that's not a single model. That's 28 wounds that are carrying those buffs. It's horrendous. And the only way you're getting rid of an attack is by doing 3 wounds to, which is hard to
Yeah,
do.
the density of the wounds is the kind of the big issue with that as well. And it's like, if you're trying to deal with it, like, you kind of want to kill the characters, don't you? So like, when I've played against you in the past, like, I'll swing into the characters, but then
Yeah.
obviously they've suddenly got like a 2 up save, and you're like, ugh.
And the danger as well with Wolves of the Sea. So the easiest and most efficient way to kill the characters is challenging out. However, with Wolves of the Sea, if you challenge out and I win, I get to roll on my buff table. So you have to be really careful, like, and also champion blocking. So normally you throw a little champion in front of my scary exalted champ to go, look, just die, mate. It'll be all right. You can't do that against my list because you do, and I will kill him. And I'll then come out of it with an extra point of strength and leadership, and you're like, oh god, it's really bad. You can't chaff clear this unit because it stacks buffs. So normally the way you deal with a horrific unit is you throw a unit of chaff in front, hope for the redirect. I'm like, cool, thanks for the +1 toughness, bud. Roll straight through it. And now I'm standing, okay, I'm in the middle of your board, but now I'm standing in the middle of your board with a buff you just gave me. There's no incentive to not take the risks. There's one thing that absolutely stomps it and counters it, which is that damn high elf dragon.
For anyone that hasn't seen the results of the weekend, basically Tom had his only loss into High Elves, and it was on the last game. Was it the second to last?
Last one. Yeah, it's game 4.
Yeah, so game 4. So normally at Old World events, game 4 is where you would normally decide the winner, really. So
Mm.
you'd probably see one of those two would win. But unfortunately, Tom did end up losing against the High Elves. So basically, his dragon had 2 amulets, so it had 2 lots of 2 up saves. Like, it was just pimped out to perfection. It was amazing.
The
I
tanky
have,
dragon red sea. It was
yeah, yeah.
insane.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, a really good player as well. I played him in round 1. We got a draw.
Mm.
We just didn't want to engage with each other. Maybe if I'd have played him at a later point in the tournament, maybe we'd have both made different moves. But at that point, we didn't want to engage. So, and neither of us could engage. Obviously, I know you guys had to engage with each other to try and get those points.
Mm.
Maybe that would have changed the outcome if you guys had played first. Maybe, I don't know.
If I'd have played first against him, I think I'd have been even more aggressive than I have been. I think that would have actually given me a win. That was the
Yeah.
path to victory. I was trying to be cagier. I went for a refused flank tactic on him because it was the capture mission. So it was that big, impassable blocks line of sight thing bang in the middle of the table. So I used that as a pivot point and tried to move the whole battlefield around that because I'm quicker than he is, the dragon. But every little trap I set up, either he didn't go for because he's a good player, or he was just lucky. So I'd set up waves of Marauder Berserkers in a wood, hoping to just destroy this chariot through dangerous terrains. It moved 4 times through a wood and didn't take a single wound. A unit of 4, not 1 wound. And I'm like, okay,
Ah,
cool.
nightmare, mate.
And yeah, this dragon, so it was just, well, it was a 2 up, 5 up, 5 up, but it had 2 once per game, 2 up wards on top of it. So every time I spiked, and I was like, yeah, I've got the damage. He was like, 2 up ward. So, yeah, great player, though. Phenomenal list. Like, I'm not bitching about it. I knew that was going to be my hard thing going into it. I knew the High Elf Dragon would be the rough one. Because you can take a real pimped out High Elf Dragon and you can take still a fair whack of heroes. In Chaos, if you take the pimped out dragon, you've got 1 other hero, if that,
Yeah, it's just the amount of points, isn't it? While we're here, we are talking about this half dragon. I would just like to shout out slightly the Dudley boys, because we got to play against them at the event, and they are great guys. If you're watching this, hi.
I played against 2 of them, the High Elf one and the Beastman one, and both of them cracking lads.
Yeah, well, I ended up playing against 4 of them.
You got the whole suite. All right.
Almost. So if I'd have played the Beastmen as well, then I'd have got the entire package, which would have been a good weekend.
A lot of them. Can't wait for them to come back. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, no, really, really nice guys. I saw a couple of comments on the last video, and they were like, "Ah, you said everyone's great guys. I want to hear the real thing. If any of them were dickheads," and it was like, no, honestly, like everyone were really, really nice. Like it's always a really nice vibe at Old World events, and kind of especially Rob's as well. The way that he runs it, it kind of breeds into you this kind of like happiness about the hobby, and that does kind of like spread out into the entire event. So everyone is actually really nice, which is really good.
And Rob's not even paying him to say any of this either. Like, so it's true. Stop paying him, Rob.
I know, yeah. So we spoke a little bit about some of the infantry. What about the cavalry that you run in the list?
So Cavalry in Chaos is one of those crucial things that your list lives and dies on. You've got 3 main ways to look at it in this list. You've got your core ones, which are your Marauder Cav. These are ones I chose to take, but not immediately. You've then got your new unit, the Huskarls. These are really cool. They're halfway between a Marauder and a Chaos Knight, but the sheer attacks that they can put out makes Chosen Knights look piss poor. And then you got your Dragon Ogres, your monstrous heavy cav. I started off with Dragon Ogres and a unit of Huskarls. And I was like, where's my army, man? Because I've got 1,000 points tied up in this Skinwolf unit, 300 or 200 in the Dragon Ogres, 200 in the Huskarls, and I got 500 points of core. I didn't have enough. It felt that there was not enough going on. So I took the Dragon Ogres out, more Skinwolves, and the Great Chaos Spawns. Took the Huskarls out, because as good as they are, and they are powerhouses, they're glass cannons. I was running them with Mark of Corn and with Frenzy. And a unit of 6, I think, is just shy of 200 points once you've got the character, the hero in there with 25 points of items. The hero is worth talking. It's not the hero. The champion is worth talking about, as you've got your pre-game challenge with Wolves of the Sea. If you win it, you get first turn. Now the Huskarl champ can take 25 points of magic items, which is just enough for the always strike first helmet and a sword of might. It's perfect. Or a charmed shield, or something like that. And he's already pumping out a load of attacks. I think he has 3 attacks. Weapon skill 4, strength 3, toughness 4. So he's great. But then when he dies, it's a lot of points to hand out. And this army, the way it started to play was a wave defense. So I went with the Marauder Cav, and they're so quick in skirmish. And with the Flails, you can go into a lot of stuff. And with 10 attacks at strength 5 AP2, a lot of people are like, I don't really want that. And at 101 points, I don't care if it dies. If it does 3 wounds to you, whatever. And if it makes you push out of position, even better.
Yeah. I mean, hitting into a lot of stuff. You're going like hitting on 4s or sometimes 3s, and then wounded on 2s or 3s. Like it's a lot of attacks, and it's a lot of good quality attacks actually from the Marauders with the Flails.
Yeah, you wouldn't want those coming into your Iron Drakes. Not at all.
No.
So yeah, they were really phenomenal in that aspect. And again, it made me have to think a lot more about the unit. I possibly might want to run more, going back to it. The Berserkers, whilst they are really cool, part of me wants to run a full speed list.
So basically what you're saying is you want to run a full send ABC wah list, but with the chaos, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's what they do, isn't it? And just being able to do that with crazy fat, that's 5 units of Marauder Horsemen core, job done, moving on. Like it just sounds nice. The maths works for me there. Can't speak enough about how much fun this list is to play, because normally with a skirmisher list, you're trying to do some avoidance nonsense and wood elves moving away all the time. And this one it's a wraparound tactic instead. So you have the skin wolves moving up the center, because normally with your Death Star unit, you might be a bit scared to just lob it in the middle of the field. You don't care with this one. Like, flank me, go on, dare you, try. See what happens. Make me fall back in good order. Make me go 8 wide. Watch what happens, you know? So you can just do it. And then all of these tiny moving pieces just running around is great. I can't wait to see more Arcane Journal armies do more weird stuff like this. Because you got one with your gyrocopters.
Yep.
And I can't wait to see that as well. Also, the gyrocopters ruined this army as well.
Yeah, gyros are super fun actually. Currently working on my gyro list, which is 19 gyrocopters. So it's going to be 19 D6 strength 4 hits coming out, AP 1, armor bane 1. So that's going to be good fun. It's just a lot of avoidance. It's very different than my usual kind of play style, which is just lob a unit forward and hope for the best. So it's going to be fun to actually play with some kind of avoidance tactics rather than, well, I suppose with my kind of current list, I want people to charge me. I really want you to charge me. Whereas this is going to be, I'm trying to avoid that at all costs. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah,
We've played a couple of games now. It's fun.
it is very fun, and yeah, it's always good to see another way to play the army as well.
Yeah, that's something about Old World that I'm really, really enjoying. It's the fact that every army has got so many different ways to play it. You're not hamstringed into playing just one way. I know, obviously, there are the meta builds and all this kind of stuff, but all those meta builds is that someone's gone out, won a tournament with it, and gone, this is how you should play it. I mean, like, everyone at home really should be kind of looking, playing with their own way, playing using their own tactics, playing with their own units, and just kind of making their own way to play. Really, I think in every book there's still a lot that people haven't tried. Obviously, yeah, like T6 monsters and stuff. Yeah, cool. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think there's a lot of play. There's definitely a lot of play in some other stuff.
well, just compounding on that idea. So I'm a really regular active member of the Warhammer Fantasy Discord, and whilst I was coming up with this idea, I was posting in the Chaos Waste, which is like a Chaos subthread on there, and talking about the skin wolves, and everyone's like, "You're absolutely batshit. This is never going to work. You're going to have a dragon roll into you. It's going to kill you. You're going to die because when you do the maths doesn't work." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think it's going to work that way, though. I think people are going to look at that unit and go, I don't want anything to do with that." You're forgetting about the psychology. And you're not thinking about how my models are painted as well, which Richie will attest. There's a level of psychological warfare going on there. There really is. If you want to check the video, like a really good look at it, Rob from Square Based did on his like tournament recap, did like a 45-second overpan of it. I bet his video gets demonetized because of it.
Yeah, they are pretty grotesque actually, in a
Yeah,
good way. So.
yeah, they're gnarly. But that's what I mean. That there's when you're talking about ways to play it, the more people told me I couldn't do this, the more I was like, watch me. Watch what happens. It's going to be really cool because I even said on the morning of, on the Saturday morning, I said to Richie, "Oh, I'm ready to lose 5 games in a row. Here we go. That's it. Game over." And then at the end of day 1, I was like, "Richie, I've won 3 games. This is it. The
Yeah,
dream's alive." Like,
but we were both like this though. So on the first day, I was like, "Oh, I've brought my king. I haven't brought a gun thing. I've lost." Like we were both so negative going into this GT, and then somehow managed to win a load of games. It was good. Like it was just kind of very surprising. Like I posted my dwarf list that won the event on Facebook and stuff, and a guy commented. He was like, "How the hell did you win an event with this?" I was like, "I just charge stuff." Like.
there was a lot of dwarves there, but barring that, it was a fairly mixed field as well. There was a bit of everything, So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not like we went out into a totally unbalanced meta. There was Bretonia, there was Wood Elves, there was High Elves, there was Chaos. Like all the gnarly boys were there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like I would say every list that I played against was a pretty cheesemonger list, really. Like a Mortuary Cult had the double casket, had the level 4s, and the Ubshabti and the Screaming Skull Catapult. The Bretonia had the Duke and the Baron that you couldn't multi wound, and all the Peg Knights. Like it was a strong field, but just chilled, and it was a good time.
the players there made it really nice as well. But this event taught me the importance of considering the meta when it comes to list building. So I'm relatively new to the whole competitive thing. I haven't done it in any game system before in a way that I've kept up with it. So I try and go to two events a month at the moment and really try and stay on top of things. I noticed, and both of us noticed actually, that the meta was shifting towards these units where it was all about mega high damage output. And that's how they were delivering a lot of their damage. I'm not talking about their defense, just their offense was keyed into this really high spike damage. So what happens, instead of taking 10 men in a unit, I do 10 men, like one. So then your huge spike damage, 100 poison men in a brick, cool, you can kill one of my dudes. Whatever, moving on. And that's what I started looking at in here. And it really, I think that's why I did as well as I did, is because if other people start bringing lists like I have, where it's lots and lots of small units, I wouldn't do nearly as well. One of the dwarf lists I came into was 2 pieces of artillery, 2 gyrocopters, and 2 units. That was it. You know, so it meant that it was very easy to play the game because I had all the agency. They had to react to me. But if he had 20 units of rangers, each 5 men strong, for example, not saying you can do it, but for example, would have been a lot different of a game. You know?
Yeah, because then I suppose you're not being able to pick your fight, like you said before, like you have the agency with the 14 drops, where suddenly if you're fighting someone on level pegging, you're like, right, where do I need to send that? Where do I need to go with this? Trying to work out where the overruns are going to go. And yeah, it's a very different game.
And then Wolves of the Sea, lovely army that it is, mitigates for 14 drops as well. You know, because then you have the pre-game challenge.
Yeah,
No
love
one
that.
wants to fight that. There's only one thing that wants to fight that, which is Chaos Warriors. It's the only thing. If you've got an actual Chaos Warrior, or Elves actually, because Elves are going to hit you first. But I've actually come up against Elves in practice games where they've had a Sword Master and he's like, I don't want to lose him. On the off chance I whiff, I don't want to lose him. He's like 35 points. I'm not losing that to your piddly 18-point little hero, you know? So it's great. And then you get first turn, you know?
Yeah, no, it is cool. And I really, really love that rule. It's really thematic. Have you played a mirror match into other Wolves of the Sea yet?
No, I don't even know anyone who's running them. That's an absolute lie. Our mate Liam's running them. But no, I haven't played against anyone. I haven't seen anyone take them to the same tournaments. This was the first time I've seen them played at Rob's. Don't know if anyone has since before. We could be wrong. I would love to see what a mirror match looks like because Wolves of the Sea is such a Build-A-Bear army where every single one looks different. You can still take a dragon in this list. You can still do a Chaos Lord on a dragon. It's not where my brain went, but I'd love to see what that army looks like where that is where someone's brain went, you know? It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, 100%. I think we'll have to try and organise a game with you and Liam so we can kind of see how they play into each other, see if the load of drops kind of counteract each other or the big skin wolf block can kind of rip through. It'd be interesting to see.
For sure, for sure.
What are your other thoughts on the army? How do you think you have to play them?
It's a real skill ceiling army. I wasn't expecting this, and I got stomped early on in the testing phase by Ed with his Wood Elves. That was a cataclysmic bad game. That was early on because I wasn't.
The knife is will do that to you though, mate. Like if you haven't played against a good player with Wood Elves before, you'll fucking know about it when you do. Jesus, like.
I came in, I was like, oh, I've got the puppet, mate. You know, what are you going to do? I've got the fucking puppet. 5 pillars of fire. He's like, yeah, I just won't take that then. I'll take Fireball instead. And I'll rinse all your tiny units. Shit. Yes, that's an issue. Tried to use Ambush against Wood Elves. It doesn't work. Not if your unit just walks onto the board, goes, hi, and then gets shot. Like, what's the point? You know? So you've really got to play it differently for every single army that you come up against. Dwarves, run at them. It's cool. Don't worry about it. You're absolutely fine. Your big, giant, your great chaos spawns, not big chaos spawns. The random move turns off the scary stand and shoot unit. That's a real key critical thing to have in your list. And it makes me actually think about having normal chaos spawn in there, maybe, just to get another random mover in there to turn off more little stand and shoot nonsense. Some of the scariest things to charge into are scary because of the stand and shoot. Iron Drakes, for example, you know. They go in, and then you can support them with other units. The skin wolves you have to buff up before they can go into anything scary. So that means trying to reach the scary unit on a ricochet, so you've overrun from one combat into another. It doesn't have to be an active one, or even get them to a point where they have to charge you after you've already got a buff up. You can't go in naked, you will just die. So it's having to think 2 or 3 turns ahead, which in turn has made me a better player for it, because playing my Chaos Dwarves, I'm thinking about this turn and next turn. I don't really need to think further than that. I should, but I don't need to. With Wolves of the Sea, I have to be thinking about turn 3 on turn 1. Where's everything going to be? Because I need to set up these overrun charges. I need to get around you. I need to make sure that I'm the one charging, or you're only charging things that I let you because you've got no other choice. Because you may as well, because then at least you're getting the charge off. Letting people fall into that false sense of security of I may as well because at least I get the charge off is beautiful. And letting them fall into that trap. No, don't charge me. Back up. I am going to get a buff off for free because you go into combat with me. Just stay away, man. Just stay away. Do anything else that you've got. Also, that's another round that I've not scored. You think that you might score against, and you might do a wound, you might do 2. 1,200 points in that unit, man. Like, you need to do about 18 wounds before you're doing anything meaningful, you know? And again, it taught me a lot about Death Stars. Don't interact with the Death Star unless you can do something super meaningful. Taking 2 wounds off, it's a waste of time. If you can't do like 6+, don't interact with it.
That was exactly the same thing with my Death Star as well. It's like, because you've got so much kind of static combat res and stuff, and you can do so many attacks out. Well, I say Death Star. I mean, I've only got like 30 models in it, to be fair. It's not a real Death Star.
If it goes over 1,000 points, it's a Death Star, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I suppose it's not one of the 180 bricks of Cavalry, though, is it?
No, the silly thing about that is that can come in at like 600 points. That's the gnarliest thing about that unit.
Not even a Death Star.
doing an intro game. We're playing 1,000 points tonight, Timmy. I'm going to make you suffer.
I love it. Right, so what do you think that they kind of suffer into? What do you reckon is a bad matchup for the Wolves of the Sea? Do you think it's just Wood Elves, or do you think they've got some other ones as well?
Anything that's playing the same game that we are, because we're basically the Swiss Army knife, where anything that's a dedicated tool can do it better. Wood Elves and Dark Elves can play the skirmish game better because they can do it, but with bows. Chaos Warriors do the run and punch you better because they can do it, but with wards and armor saves on a lot more of their units and with multiple level 4s. Caster armies can do it better than you because they can take multiple level 4s. So you've got to be really careful about the niche armies that are really geared into a certain way of playing. The one exception to this is Mega Caster armies, because as long as you take the Puppet and Brazen Collar on the same unit, you'll make it across the board 9 times out of 10. For those that don't know, Infernal Puppet, 3d6 cast, drop the highest, and then Brazen Collar's magic resistance 2. So those 2 in combination really stop things going off, you know?
Yeah, like I've said a million times on this channel, magic resist is one of the strongest rules in the game. Anyone that disagrees, I'll fight you.
Yeah. +1 to cast is amazing, but magic resistance 1 is bad. But what? What? No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just old hangovers. I used to get a D6. That's nice. My back didn't used to hurt in the mornings, you know. But yeah,
we'll get there, mate. We'll get there, don't worry.
But no, like you've got to be careful of the real edge case armies. Combined arms armies you can kind of run over. I'm yet to play a true Empire gun line. I've played plenty of Dwarf gun lines, and they're easy to deal with because you're so quick. Empire gun lines do actually have the speed factor still, because a lot of them are accompanied by 2 to 6 units of knights. You know, maybe a steam tank. Don't know what I'd do about a steam tank. Really, I think I'd just throw skin wolves at it and just go sit, stay, and just leave them there. You know.
Yeah, I suppose because the skin wolves are wounded it on 6s, aren't they?
Yeah, so you just go for the armor bane one and just try and proc it and go for big spikes. You know, cannons pretty scary, but a lot of regen on the army, and you've got 2 behemoths to block them with. So yeah, like I say, I think every army needs to be careful of the niche ones, but this one more so because you've lost a lot of tools. You know, you can't just yeet a massive dragon and then back it up with a level 4. You have to choose.
I really like armies that kind of make you choose what you want to take. So it is good to kind of pick the non-obvious option and kind of make it work for yourself. I know that you working with the Skin Wolves has kind of been an edge case of that as well, and just trying to make this one unit work. And it is nice to see. And a few people are doing it now. Actually, they're kind of like picking up these kind of units that people have overlooked previously because they've been picking the dragons and stuff like that. And it's really fun to see them making that really work. It's like the Wood Elf armies, like Ed was running the 2 stags.
Yep.
I prefer the stags and the dragons in that army, definitely. Like if I play against Wood Elves and they've got a dragon, like that's the only easy points I'm going to get in that game. So then I'm going to try and focus down that dragon to get it. So I think it's definitely good for the game. And when you're making these kind of like edge lists that are kind of out there, it's just cool. Like I think it opens people's eyes to what you can do. And that's really good to see.
Yeah, and I want to keep going with it as well. I really enjoyed the exercise. It was a good one for me because my job allows me to paint big intervals throughout the day. I press print on a machine. I've got an hour to kill, so I can do a little bit of painting. You know, I'm very, very, very lucky in that regard, and I know it. Believe me. So I want to keep going with this exercise and keep trying to do it. There is a single Wood Elves army, a single type of Wood Elves army that's got me excited, and it's to do the same thing but with Warhawk Riders. So it's the exact same thought process that I've had with the Skin Wolves, and just overlay it onto Hawk Riders. Because
the Hawk Star.
Yeah, and then I'll just get that little bit from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia of the guys in the Hawk suits, and I'll get that. And yeah, I've got a Chaos Dwarf hat. I'll get a Hawk suit. But yeah, it's a fun exercise. You know,
mate, I 100% like if you run that at a tournament, you have to dress like a bird.
Yeah, I will. Don't worry. I will. You won't be able to roll your dice properly. You'll be looking at the majesty going on up there. You know.
Right, I think.
Do the fun stuff. Do the weird stuff.
Yeah, right. I think we've megally got off topic a little bit, so we'll go back to the Wolves of the Sea. Is there anything you should avoid in the list writing stages? Is there any units that you just shouldn't take, or is everything kind of viable, do you think?
So the one thing to keep your eyes open for, Exalted Champions can normally be BSBs. They can't in Wolves of the Sea. That really impacts the way you build your lists.
Yeah, we saw that at the S-Bot in Toronto, which made the list illegal, unfortunately. I'm not sure if it would have changed the outcome too much, but obviously if you do really well in a game with your mates down your local club, or if you do well at a tournament, and then it kind of turns out that your list's illegal, then it kind of almost strips that win away from you. Do you know what I mean? Even if it had no impact on the game, you're still like, well, you got an illegal list, so. And it's just kind of nice to limit that, because you don't want to, like, nobody wants to cheat. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you do, you're a dick. But if you like, no one wants to, and stuff like that can catch you out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's one line of text in a text box in the corner of the army building page. It's so easy to overlook because a few of the army builders haven't even picked it up. So yeah, just be aware of that. And it's also another case of write your army listed army builder, then open your book, double check that you've actually followed the goddamn rules. Trust the army builder's math if you need to, if that's too overwhelming, but at least just double check that your list looks right, you know. So yeah, that's one thing to look out for. Another thing, you can only take one level 4. So there is a world which I look at this and I go, well, I take none then. So that's something to look out for in list building. Is a lot of chaos lists do really live and die on their level 4 wizards. Infernal Puppet, again, it's an arcane item. You're going to want to take it, probably. But I could see you just taking a level 1 sorcerer with the puppet. So you're not actually casting anything. He's just an off switch, basically. And you can run loads of Marauder Chieftains instead, which looks really fun. Looks really, really fun. Be careful of big blocks of Marauder Warriors. I tried it early on. They hand out their points super fast. Like, super fast. They're either running at stuff which they shouldn't be because they've got Mark of Khorne, or they are just dying because they're sitting in the back and someone's going, well, there's 30 of them. they've only got a 5-up save. If I kill 20 of them across the game, I can scoop up a good whack of points there. That's a differential sitting in that unit. So they'll go for them. And it's not worth your time protecting them because they're not your good unit. So I found them to be a trap. Chaos Giants, you've got so much better options. You've just got better shit going for you. Same with the other monstrous infantry like Chaos Ogres, Chaos Trolls. What's the point? Take the good unit instead, which is Skin Wolves. I think you are going to come to a list building decision where you're going to go, am I going to take 600 points of Dragon Ogres? Because you can. You get 660 points of rare in this list.
Gnarly.
Yeah. So it's like, am I going to take 660 points, which is 2 Shaggoths as well? You can't take 2 Shaggoths in any other list. So do I take 2 Shaggoths and 2 little Dragon Ogres? Or do I take a crap load of Skin Wolves? Or do I take loads of Huskarls? Because that's another list I like. 3 big units of Huskarls.
This is the thing. There's so many options in the Wolves of the Sea. Like, there's so much you can do. Like, it's just really cool.
Yeah, so I think it's a very long roundabout way of going about it, but pick your focus early on. Don't scattershot the list, because I find if you try and, in quotes, combined arms this list, it doesn't work. I went for the MSU version of the list. You could go for a Monster Mash version of the list where it's a dragon and 2 Shaggoths and like 300, 500 points of core, and that's it, which I might do because that sounds really fun now. I've just said it out loud. But yeah, so just choose your focus.
Yeah, I think when you're list building, when you're kind of like starting a new army, for me, I don't know if people do this, but I'll be like, right, what's my favorite thing that I want to base this around? And I'll be like, right, so for this army, I'm going to base it around this specific thing. And then it kind of grows out from that. So if you go, right, it's either going to be Dragon Ogres, it's going to be Skin Wolves, and you go, right, I want an absolute proverbial ton of Skin Wolves in this list, then that's what it's going to be. Or if you want the Shaggoths, then you just kind of build around that, don't you, I think?
Part of me did want to take 25. You can. I just didn't know if you should. Didn't know if I'd have any mates left at the end of it, that's all. That's another really key point. I've said this on Richie's channel twice already. Don't do this bullshit against your friends on club night. Don't do it. They don't need that into them. Unless they did it to you 2 weeks ago, in which case return the favour. But just that one time. This kind of psychotic behaviour is for tournaments where we're testing things out, trying to push the game and see what we can do with it. I'm not trying to break the game here. And there are those that are saying you shouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. I do agree with you, but you can. And so within the bounds of I want to see what happens. This isn't going to be my forever list. It was a fun experiment that I'm in a very lucky position that I can just print this army and not have to invest a lot into it. So yeah, don't be a dick to your friends on club night, but if you go into a tournament, yeah, take the gloves off. Have fun.
So yeah, those people out there with Wolves of the Sea army, and you are looking for a very, very strong army, then this is a variant that works very, very well. I will be posting Tom's list in the description down below as well. I will quickly get him to run through it as well, but it will be down there for you to peruse and potentially steal if you want to use it. But yeah, like you said, if you're playing down the club and your mates just want to chill game, potentially don't use this one because it's pretty spicy.
Yeah, it's a really easy fix as well. So if you find list building hard and you do just want to pick my list up and run it at your next club night, do it. Don't put the characters in the Skin Wolves. That's it. You will tone it down to use, like, say it was a 10 before, it turns into like a 6. Really takes the edge off the list massively. So yeah. So my list, I called it Man-Eater Tribes. It's based off of the main area I got the sculpts from, which is from BTR and Man-Eater Tribe release. So the general is a Sorcerer Lord with the Mark of Nurgle, level 4, on a Daemonic Mount with the Spell Familiar, Infernal Puppet, Brazen Collar, and 2 Favour the Gods, and he's running Battle Magic. The only other hero is an Exalted Champ, Heavy Armour, Shield, Mark of Nurgle on a Demon Mount with Giant Blade, Crown of Everlasting Conquest, that's a 5-up regen, Favour of the Gods, and Enchanting Aura. I've then got in core 4 units of 5 Marauder Tribe Berserkers, all with Flails and Ambushers, one of which has got the Champion, which is for the pre-game challenge. I've then got 2 units of 6 Marauder Horsemen, both with Mark of Corn, Flails, Light Armor, Shield, and Musician. Toyed around a lot between musicians and champions and stuff like that. I find champions on chaff units are traps. Don't take them. It allows heroes to do a lot more damage than they need to. I've then got 3 units of 5 Warhounds. Only 2 of them have got Vanguard because I ran out of points. But I found only having 2 of them in Vanguard was fine. A unit of 7 Skinwolves with a champion, a unit of 4 Skinwolves by themselves, and 2 units of 2 gigantic Spawn of Chaos with the Mark of Nurgle. And those, yeah, there's so much going on there. It's 1999 points. So I get a moral victory for being 1 point under.
You were going to say gigantic squig then.
Yeah. Dimes.
I would love to see them in the army.
Yeah, I'll do it. Fuck it. I've got like 8 giant squigs, mate. I've got so many.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a pretty gnarly army. I have played against it. Is that for insane people like myself? I find it really fun to play into that kind of stuff. Obviously, can be a bit strong. So yeah, if you're playing it down the club, tone it down a little bit. But it is a it's definitely a 3-2 army, I would say, in anyone's hands. I think it's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. You could take this, turn up to a tournament, really not know what you're doing, but just deploy it in the way I've said. So characters in the big block, you'll walk out with 3 wins. You know, you just will. Because this is a stat check army cranked up to the 9s. Normally, when I say a stat check army, a classic example of that is 4 toughness 6 monsters with double or triple saves. That's your classic stat check army. Can you deal with that? This asks the same question, but then puts it into a unit and triple saves it and puts it up to toughness 7. It's a whole different question. So many people have said, yeah, I can take 9 wounds off a dragon. That's nice. 17 to go, buddy. You know, like it's a thing. Yeah. But great fun doing it again. Next one's ogres.
I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you do with ogres. It's good. While we have Tom on, I'm just going to give him a little shout out because Tom is actually the channel sponsor with his UK resin prints. So if you want anything printed and you want it sent out speedily, please get in touch. There is a link to his Etsy page down below, and there is a discount code for 15% off everything with the code DowieAfterDark in all capitals. So if you want this man, I'm pointing the wrong way, this man to print your next army, please share the link down below.
And I will say I've got a massive sale on this month anyway, but if you message me and say that Richie sent you, I will send you some Dowie After Dark goodies in the box. So there you go.
I want some.
Order some models then, Richie, and say that Richie sent you.
Yeah, yeah, I can do. Right. As always, I would like to thank the channel members, which are Magic Machek, Tim Pitcher, Tom Boller, Close Order, and Roll the Initiative Gaming. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It honestly means loads. And hopefully you're enjoying the content. Right. So it's been great having you on, Tom. As always, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Richie. And everyone go like and subscribe. Richie's worth it. He's awesome.
Sometimes, mate. Right. Take care, everyone. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
In the night of stone, we march so bold, with our sharp and heart so cold. Through halls of old, our vengeance sparks in shadows dark. It's Dowie After Dark. For years untold and ledgers kept, where blood runs cold in caverns deep. The drums they roar will settle scores in Dowie lore. The grudge is held for years untold, in ledgers kept where blood runs cold. In caverns deep, the drums they roar will settle scores in Dowie lore. Under mountains, watchful gaze will end the feuds of ancient days. With iron will and spirit stark, will bring the light in Dowie After Dark. Golden gems shall guide our fight through endless tunnels lost tonight. The hammer falls, the anvil sings, in Dowie's name our battle rings. From molten forges fuming red, our enemies shall quake with dread. In caverns grim our legends start, we strike as one in watchful